since this is the first time that we've gotten a chance to talk. Wanted to hear what your thoughts were, either at the time or even as you've gotten a chance to marinate on 52-49. The Tennessee Volunteers, they snap a 15-game losing streak to the Alabama Crimson Tide. The way it all played out, like all the fan videos of them rushing the field, the goalposts getting out of the stadium, the Derek Dooley eating the sad spaghetti meal as the fans are partying above him. Like this, it truly has been a modern college football epic. As we sit here on Monday morning, what really stands out to you about that game?
All of it. You just brought up half of it. I mean, it was insanity what we watched unfold, and I almost feel like you could do an entire 30 for 30 just on the game, the way it unfolded. And those same fans that are out carrying the goalpost, I would love to see them like a timeline throughout the game when it was 28-10. I bet they were like, yeah, and you could almost sense like Tennessee felt they had arrived and like the blowout is on. And then to see those same fans' reaction when all of a sudden it's tie game and all of a sudden you've got a ball game on your hands, that lead evaporates and you're watching potentially you give away that game. And then, to see Bama lined up for a field goal, to miss it, then to see you tied up, or to you get the chance for the field goal and make it, like, it was just phenomenal. It had every single thing you would want in a game, except not a lot of defense, but I'm okay with that. You did have some big plays that had to be made when they were to be made, but the quarterbacks were stellar. I really felt like the winner of that game was going to win the Heisman Trophy. Now, that could be prison of the moment, early, recency bias. I get all of that, but I mean, how can you not be impressed with Hendon Hooker and Bryce Young, the show that they put on? And Hendon Hooker is going to get a ton of credit, and he's probably going to vault to one of the front runners for the Heisman. But I thought Bryce Young showcased what he's all about, man. The dude is tough. He's nails. He's
cool.
I mean, I don't think his heartbeat ever goes over like 85. Like never. Like it doesn't matter if he just had to run and just got crushed. I mean, he was phenomenal too. It was just a battle of heavyweights that was really, really fun to watch. I did have a thought because it's awesome for Tennessee, right? 15 years, they had to beat Bama. Bama's the giant they had to slay. Is the win over Bama as big as like, and I don't, sorry, Jordan, but I'm looking at the way it's unfolded. Texas should have beat them, had them on the ropes. And if Quinn Ewers plays, I think you can make a really good argument that they should have beat them, or the refs, call a couple calls differently. They would have won that game. And then Texas A&M, who's not very good, had them on the ropes. Now, granted, that game was about Bryce Young. That makes that's a total pass. But and I still think Alabama could go on and make the playoffs and do everything they want to do. But we've seen other programs feel like they've arrived just because they beat Bama. Texas A&M is one of them. Got to make sure, and I think this is going to be Josh Heupel's biggest challenge moving forward. That wasn't our season. Our season is still in front of us. Our season is still, going to Athens and beating Georgia. Our season is potentially winning an SEC championship. Our season is, doing more than this and being defined as this. I mean, shoot, we've seen teams feel like they arrived because they lost close to Bama, and we've seen how that worked out. Now, I feel better, and I am making sure I do not want to say that Tennessee, I feel, is fraudulent or that wasn't a big win. It was awesome. But I wonder how big that win is, and I do never said this before. Never. I do wonder if this is sort of the beginning of the end of the dynasty, the dominant dynasty. Bama's not going anywhere, but I wonder if it's the end of them rattling off playoff appearance after playoff appearance after playoff appearance, because it sure feels like that defense is not as dominant as it once was, and there are a lot of holes, and you start seeing discipline issues with penalties. To me, it just feels like this might be in all those games they could have lost. Like if Bryce Young's not there, which when he goes off to the NFL, are you going to Milroe? Is that your guy? Like, I just feel like you could be the beginning of the end of the dynasty. And I want to make sure it's not like a troll Alabama. I think they're still going to be really good, and Saban's the GOAT. But I do feel like you're starting in, and it's a tribute to the other teams that are on the rise. There's other teams that are picking up their game too, which is the best case situation for the SEC.
I will counter that by saying you mentioned how plenty of teams have beaten Alabama and thought that they've arrived, and it turns out that they, didn't. Plenty of teams have beaten Alabama, and we've questioned whether it's the end of the dynasty, and it hasn't been. But that said, it's going to happen eventually. So maybe it is because, as you said, like they didn't look great against Texas. They looked pretty great against Tennessee. They just didn't score enough points. But I don't know. I don't think Alabama is as elite as we have seen it in recent years, but I don't think Georgia is as elite as it was last year. I don't think Ohio State is quite as elite. I think that's my biggest takeaway from this season in general, is that there is no incredible, amazing team. And I was thinking about it because when I had to write the Monday after today, I do the college football playoff projection at the end of each column. And it's not what I think, it's what, I think that if there were rankings this week, this is what I think the committee would do. And I honestly think that based on what we've seen, like the top four would be Tennessee, Clemson, Georgia, and Ohio State, and maybe Michigan over Ohio State, which just kind of gives you an idea of what we thought coming into the season compared to what's actually playing out as far as who's not as dominant as you'd think, who the surprise teams are, because Tennessee does have the best win in the country. So I think that based on the way that the college football playoff tends to do things, there's a very real shot they would be number one right now. But it's just, I don't know. Hendon Hooker was great. I agree. Right now, if you probably took the Heisman voting, he would win. But I do want to point one thing out. Hendon Hooker, who had thrown like 3 interceptions over like 18 months, he threw 2 interceptions in that game. Only one of them stood, but he threw 2, and both should have counted. So
all that matters is the stat line when those voters who don't watch every game see it.
Yeah, I understand that's what's going to matter at the end of the year. But it's like when I look at that stat line, it's like he was great. He had the 5 touchdowns, but he also had the turnovers, and there was also the dropped mesh point fumble. So it's like it was not a perfect game. It was a perfect result as far as Tennessee fans are concerned. But I just think that, I agree with you. I know that I am taking UT Martin plus the spread this week.
I know
the line is, because
hangover. I'm with you on that one. What is the spread anyway? It's got to be massive.
Guessing it's going to be in the 40s or something, but take Martin, lock Unity, lock Infinity this week.
It's going to be 7-3 UT Martin's up at the end of the first quarter.
They're just going to have to go for it because there's no field goals.
Right.
They're going around like begging for money to replace their field goals because they took them out of the stadium. Sorry, guys, we're going for 2. That's the deal for playing in Knoxville now.
I will say this, though, because I feel bad. Jordan's like, can't I have anything nice? Can't Tennessee fans have anything nice? As far as the teams that have arrived, I do feel Tennessee is closer to being the 2019 LSU than they are the 2021 Texas A&M or some other team. They're legit. Like they're really good. I mean, I don't want to make sure I don't diminish what Tennessee just did, but we'll see how that unfolds. But their defense has to improve. Like it's a problem.
At some
point. LSU won the national championship. I'm glad you mentioned that, Danny.
Yeah, what'd you find?
All right, through 6 games, and shout out to Emily Proud, one of our colleagues at 24/7 Sports. She and Brandon Marcello were going back and forth on Twitter yesterday. Through 6 games, 2019 LSU, 3,367 total yards, 40 touchdowns, 6 turnovers. 2022 Tennessee, 3,306 total yards, 37 touchdowns, 7 turnovers. We are within 360 yards of total offense through 6 games, 3 touchdowns and 1 turnover. The statistical profile of this Tennessee team offensively is looking like 2019 LSU.
Goes against everything I believe in, not to think that a bad defense is going to catch you at some point.
So LSU got enough defense. And I would say that Tennessee has that aspect of, we saw them be very aggressive and successful in the pass rush. And that is the perfect complement to an explosive offense because the other offenses has to press. You get off to those quick starts, you start scoring touchdowns, you make these other offenses one-dimensional. And if you've got really good pass rushers that can cause havoc, then you can get enough out of your defense.
Another difference, though, to me, like statistically, it's similar. But how many of those LSU defenders on that team got drafted? How many Tennessee defenders on this team will be drafted?
It's 100% a fair point. I was about to say the talent level on paper certainly seems like the LSU defense, because that was what everyone was mad about. Remember, Ole Miss lit them up. It was Ole Miss, right? That just like could not that never got stopped, and LSU ended up having to win that game. Or was it Vanderbilt? It was one of those games in the middle of the season where Dave Aranda told me at the national championship game that it was like the true like wake up moment for him when he realized we had to totally throw out everything we were doing and start to change. But like, you're right. Grant Delpit was there. Patrick Queen was there. I mean, the talent level of that LSU defense had multiple NFL draft picks.
But
if my options between those teams, and I don't remember which one it was, but if the options were Ole Miss and Vandy, no offense, Barton, but I'm going to guess it was Ole Miss.
Chat saying it was Ole Miss.
I'll say this, though. They keep playing like this. More scouts start coming around. All of a sudden, some of those guys become more draftable. We see that. I mean, look at Cincinnati. It's a great example last year. I mean, they have 9 players drafted, and they were great players. Like Sauce Gardner is an incredible player, but he may not get discovered if they're not balling out the way they are. So you might see some Tennessee guys start to pop. And for them to do it without a couple of their defensive stars and to do it without Cedric Tillman, like this team's going to get healthier, which I think makes them even scarier.